The Atlantic put out an article last year, and it was called "Separating Sports by Sex Doesn't Make Sense." It talked about how we separate sports like the WNBA just because it's just socialization. This is insane.
I agree.
Okay. That's why people vote for Trump. If there's stuff like that on the left that people just go, I know Trump's horrible, but separating by sports by sex makes perfect sense. And if you think it doesn't, you can't leave the country.
Bill Maher went completely savage on Adam Schiff during a show, and honestly, it was both really funny and also pretty shocking at the same time.
Senator Schiff, given the ongoing political tensions and Trump's actions toward his critics, do you think President Biden's preemptive pardons turned out to be more important than initially expected? Let's first tell people what that means, preemptive pardons. That was pretty unprecedented, right? Before he left office, Joe Biden pardoned you and a number of people who he thought Trump would go after.
No, I take the opposite view. I don't think he should have given the pardons at all.
Really?
No, I don't think he should have, and I was vocal about that at the time.
Can you refuse a pardon?
That's less clear because in the case of the January 6th committee...
The comedian made fun of Schiff's double standards with a question that truly caught him by surprise. The joke was short, but it landed like a volcano suddenly blowing up. So go ahead and tap that subscribe button, and let's jump right into the story.
This statement from the administration: the president had the constitutional authority to direct the use of military force because he could reasonably determine that such use of force was in the national interest. That's too vague for you?
Totally vague.
Okay, because that's from Obama, about Libya.
Well, Obama made the argument initially that he could go into Syria without an authorization. I and many others pushed back on that argument. Ultimately, he did not go forward with going after Assad, even though Assad was gassing his own people, because he thought he might lose the vote in Congress. But I respect the fact that that was important to him, and the fact that he did not have the support of Congress meant that we weren't going to go forward.
Did you see that big master moment? Bill Maher read a statement to Adam Schiff that sounded like it supported Obama's actions in Libya. But here's the twist that made the moment crazy. He never told Schiff that Obama was actually the person who said those words. Schiff, thinking the words came from Trump, quickly said the statement sounded messy and unclear. And then he awkwardly switched the topic to start talking about Assad. That moment clearly showed what many critics call a double standard. If he had known those words came from Obama, there's almost no chance he would have brushed them aside so fast. His reaction shows how much background and personal political views affect how he judges things. Bill Maher's move wasn't just clever. It was like a careful operation that showed Schiff using one set of rules for Trump and a very different set for Obama. Moments like that feel like treasure for viewers who are paying close attention.
I think it's true justice. The only thing he cares about is himself and money, and going after the money is a way to bring about some real justice.
And that is exactly the issue Bill Maher says he has with Adam Schiff, and honestly, with many politicians as well. The double standard shows up the moment Trump's name comes into a discussion. Suddenly, everything Trump does gets labeled as criminal, reckless, or simply evil. They attack him strongly and non-stop, leaving no space for context or understanding. But when the situation is flipped and their favorite politicians are mentioned, the rules seem to fade away. Mistakes get forgiven, questionable actions get explained, and big errors get defended like they are untouchable truth. It feels like picking morals only when it helps, with political bias dressed up to look fair. Bill Maher keeps talking about this again and again because he believes it is not just unfair, it can also hurt everyday citizens. People deserve leaders who follow the same rules for everyone, not a system where loyalty controls judgment. This kind of hypocrisy is no longer hiding quietly. It stands out boldly, and moments like the Schiff exchange make it impossible to ignore. The frustration feels strong, and Bill Maher points it out with sharp and fearless honesty.
I don't share your pessimism about this or your pessimism about the general election. The reason why Joe Biden is going to beat Donald Trump is because at the end of the day, America is going to want a president who is a decent human being, who doesn't shit on other people, who has some interest in the American people, some interest in something beyond himself. I think at the end of the day, people are going to reject this bigoted, divisive figure.
That also connects with what Schiff had predicted before the 2024 elections took place. But when the final results arrived, he looked completely stunned. He acted like Trump's popularity appeared from nowhere, ignoring the fact that the former president had a very loyal base of supporters showing up in large numbers. And it wasn't only strong MAGA followers or deeply conservative voters. Trump also gained support from a surprising number of voters who usually lean more liberal. That wide support didn't just help him win key swing states. It also helped him win the popular vote, making him the first Republican to do that in 20 years. Schiff's shocked reaction showed what critics say is how disconnected he sometimes appears, especially when it comes to understanding Trump's influence and strength. The 2024 election made one thing very clear. No matter how confident or proud commentators and longtime politicians seem, they do not always understand what everyday voters are truly thinking.
And I'm just getting tired of seeing so much stuff targeted in his direction, but somehow, some way he still survives. I mean, we're talking about a situation where he's still going to be the GOP nominee, still going to be running for president. You're President Biden. That's the individual that you're going to have to beat. 4 indictments, 91 counts. They ain't even bringing up the bankruptcies. They ain't even bringing up this particular issue with this civil case. And somehow, some way, he put cats to shame because he clearly has more than 9 lives.
Exactly. Just look at how the DNC and its supporters worked hard to stop Trump before his political career even had enough time to grow. There were many shocking claims, accusations about vote buying, and warnings calling him fascist or authoritarian. The attacks kept coming again and again without stopping. The goal looked very clear: damage his image at any cost. But even through all the media storms and heated controversies, Trump didn't just stay in the race. He continued getting stronger, holding on to his support and winning elections. That says a lot about how voters really think and make choices. It shows that loud messaging, no matter how powerful or widespread it is, does not automatically control public opinion. People compare what they hear with what they see happening in their daily lives. The simple truth is messaging has limits, and voters are not as easy to control as political planners sometimes believe.
The Atlantic put out an article last year, and it was called "Separating Sports by Sex Doesn't Make Sense." And talked about how we separate sports like the WNBA just because it's just socialization. This is insane.
I agree.
Okay. That's why people vote for Trump. Because there's stuff like that on the left that people just go, I know Trump's horrible, but separating by sports by sex makes perfect sense. And if you think it doesn't, you can't leave the country.
That is exactly what many Trump supporters say about why they stand behind him inside the GOP. They believe he speaks in a direct and honest way. With Trump, supporters often say what you see is exactly what you get. His tone, his thoughts, and his reactions are always visible. There are no heavy filters and no softening of his words. That raw and straightforward style connects with voters who feel tired of polished speeches and carefully practiced lines. Now compare that with Schiff and other DNC leaders whose messages can feel very planned and carefully shaped. The more people watch closely, the more confusing things can seem. Positions shift, explanations twist, and clear answers suddenly become difficult to find. To many voters, that feels like avoiding the truth instead of explaining details. Whether fair or not, that feeling builds loyalty. In today's political world, appearing real or authentic often matters more than the most perfectly written campaign speech.
Senator Schiff, given the ongoing political tensions and Trump's actions toward his critics, do you think President Biden's preemptive pardons turned out to be more important than initially expected? Let's first tell people what that means, preemptive pardons. That was pretty unprecedented, right? Before he left office, Joe Biden pardoned you and a number of people who he thought Trump would go after.
No, I take the opposite view. I don't think he should have given the pardons at all.
Really?
No, I don't think he should have, and I was vocal about that at the time.
Can you refuse a pardon?
That's less clear because in the case of the January 6th committee, he pardoned essentially the whole committee.
Now here is where things become even more interesting. Schiff says President Biden should not have given pardons to members of the January 6th committee because, according to him, they had nothing to worry about anyway. But hold on for a second. If everything they did was fully proper, why would there be a need for a pardon at all? To many people, that step looks unnecessary and maybe even confusing. It raises many questions in people's minds. Schiff's confident tone does not fully match how the situation appears from the outside, and that difference is hard to ignore. Of course, it is important to separate suspicion from proven facts. There is no clear proof of wrongdoing connected to the pardon itself. But in politics, moments like this can quickly feed rumors. And in today's world, unanswered questions usually stay around until more facts appear or a clearer explanation is given.
But this is and so the FBI came in and arrested the judge. Now, I haven't heard that, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I've ever read arrested a judge. So is this significant?
Well, I think
I'm not going to comment on something I don't know more about than what you've just told me.
You read about it too.
Yeah, I mean, I read about it, but I don't know.
So you don't trust anything either, and you work for the New York Times.
Well,
Now that is a strong point, especially since Bret Stephens has openly criticized his own workplace, the New York Times. When a writer questions the direction or decisions of the same company he works for, it gives people a look into how major media groups may operate behind closed doors. Critics use moments like this as proof that some large news outlets might have internal bias, especially against figures like Trump. The idea sounds simple. Negative headlines grab more attention, bring more clicks, and spread faster than calm and balanced reporting. In today's competitive media world, that pressure can quietly affect the decisions editors make. At the same time, disagreements inside a company can also show different opinions rather than a planned effort. Still, situations like this add fuel to the doubts of viewers who already believe certain stories are pushed harder than others.
But this was our big gun. Now it just looks like you're stalking him. I think in the eyes of the people who don't follow it that closely, which is most of the country, here's the thing about Bob Mueller. He's like the last person, maybe the last thing in America that left and right agreed on. Left and right basically agreed. This is a guy of honor. This is an honest guy. This is an honest broker. Whatever he says goes. Americans are not into details. Don't read it to me, Bob. Just give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down. The fact that he was like, if you couldn't impeach before, how are you going to impeach after?
Here is where Bill Maher really pushes his point strongly. He calls out Adam Schiff by reminding him how Donald Trump was investigated heavily during his first term and even after he left office, with many people hoping to find strong proof against him. The belief, especially among politicians and media voices, was that powerful evidence would eventually be discovered. But Bill Maher points to what actually took place. Even Special Counsel Robert Mueller, who was widely respected for being careful and detailed, did not find a criminal conspiracy between Trump's campaign and Russia. In Bill Maher's view, that result makes Schiff's strong claims look even more intense and questionable. To critics, it feels like the public followed a long story that never delivered the huge ending many expected. Moments like this keep debates alive about political responsibility, media power, and how far investigations should go before they begin to damage public trust.
Let's stop talking about Trump. We talk about him too much. I want to tell people what we're going to do for them. Healthcare, environment, those kind of issues. For example, I've seen you on TV a lot in the last couple of years. I know everything you know, or that you tell us, about the Russian situation. I don't have a clue what you think about healthcare. I've never heard it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you're for Medicare for all, or improve Obamacare, or get a chicken. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Take a step back, and the pattern becomes clear. The exchange between Bill Maher and Adam Schiff shows how many voters feel frustrated about double standards in politics and the media. Rules seem to change, outrage appears only at certain times, and some stories fall apart when people look closely. Trust keeps getting weaker, and many people feel that what happens behind the scenes does not always match what they are told. This difference often helps Trump politically, as supporters see him as direct and honest compared to polished messages from longtime leaders. For many supporters, it is not about agreeing with everything he says, but about feeling that he speaks freely. Critics disagree and say viral clips can remove important details and make complex issues look simple. Still, sharp moments like tough questions and surprised reactions can shape public opinion very quickly. In today's world, honesty and consistency matter more than ever. Voters are questioning many things, and one truth stands out. Smooth talking alone cannot build trust. If the gap between words and reality keeps growing, it will affect who people trust in the future. And with that, we end today's video. If you enjoyed it, press like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload.